Today we're talking about our group project, which was the Leadership and Innovation Student Association event of the Holiday Mixer. Our team here is Christina Beach, Tyler Ford, Sherry Steffens, and then myself. With that, out of cohort 38 who executed this event. So I'm going to start by talking about the process. So this is pre-event with this. So the objectives today, we're going to just do a description of the project, the intent and goals, our journey, outcome, and now what. With that. So our goal was to host a Leadership and Innovation Holiday Mixer. Part of the intention was this, is that the Leadership and Innovation organization is really starting to kick off and interact more with our staff, alumni, and students. So that's really bringing the whole organization together to encourage the heart, and also with the goal to raise some funds for the Student Association so we can start to make more annual events like this and other opportunities to network and get together and support the students in this association. So part of the journey is when we decided to take on this project. It was almost to a naive extent that we thought we were going to have this very smooth journey of doing this. But to start with, we contacted 27 different restaurants and breweries as potential locations. And because of the short turnaround time, we were starting to have issues finding outside venues. And then so we took an internal focus of looking at venues here on Damon. We put an event request in on the 10th of November, and they approved our location on the 2nd of December. And then we sent the invitations out on the 3rd because we were getting very close to the event. So now let's talk a little bit about the larger piece of the Student Association and the complications and challenges we met regarding student, which I'm going to hand this over to our Leadership and Innovation Student President, Christina Beach, who really managed that portion of the process.
Yeah, so basically we set out, we had a location approved on campus, and what had happened was it was classified as a student, like a class project. And with that, the authorities decided that we were not allowed to have it on campus. I got this letter, an email 3 days after invitations were sent out, everything was already in full force. But yeah, the authorities decided that we were not allowed to hold it on campus. So that was December 6th. So it brought us back to the now what. So what are we going to do? Do we change the location? Do we change the date? The invitations are already sent out. Do we contact people? So we're kept in a standstill. So what do? We reframed it. So we approached this authority figure on campus, and we basically said, you know, this is cohort 38. We are all student association members, and we explained the importance of the association of this event and bringing students together, and this is our first event, and the invitations were already sent out. So it was reframed as a Leadership Innovation Student Association event, as opposed to a class project. With that, it was reapproved and granted from Damon, but we had many restrictions placed on us. Restrictions that were double standards in a sense, to the point where we were not allowed to move furniture. We had to basically not allowed to have any outside guests. It had to be a dry event. We had to have a student activities representative on campus watching us. There were many restrictions placed on us. So our group, we reconvened, and we want to make this a fun holiday mixer for all staff and students to enjoy. So we made the decision to move the event location, and with that we moved it to the Yelling Goat Restaurant, my family business in Lancaster, and that happened honestly within a matter of a couple hours. We moved it, we sent the new invitations out via Eventbrite, passed them out paper form, so the new invitations were sent out on December 8th, same day. And this is a copy of our invitations that were sent out via Eventbrite and also paper form to students, association members, and faculty. And I'll hand this off to Sherry so she can explain the journey and what each of us contributed.
So the reason that I feel like we were so successful is because of our different personalities and how we fit together, kind of as a puzzle. First I'll start with me. When I looked at my NTBI, I am an extrovert, I have intuition, I use my feelings, and I'm perceiving. I'm also an implementer, that Christina likes to point out often. And because of that, I think when we started, when we first heard of the project and we were told to kind of put something together, I don't think I could have left the room that day unless we had a plan in place. Because that's just how my mind works. I knew that we were short on time, I knew that we had to get something done, and we were going to agree on something by the time we left that room. So I think my personality helps because I kind of push things to get going and move forward. I focus on the goal. I want to get everything set so that we can start moving forward. And I'm big picture. I hate details. So if we're stuck on a detail, I'm completely fine with moving on. We'll just focus on something else. We can get back to the detail later, no problem. That way we can still continue and come up with our plan. So that night, that day, we came up with exactly what we wanted to do, roundabout. And I think that's part of my personality and what helps. Stassi is next. She has my personality as well. She is also an ENFP, but her difference is she's an ideator, a little bit different from an implementer, but because our personalities are the same, she also pushes towards the goal as well, which helps with me, because she'll kind of say, okay, let's just get this going as well, so we definitely benefit off one another. But because of her NTBI and her personality, she's very cooperative, collaborative, and she is full of ideas, obviously, because she's an ideator. Because of that, she's a much more detail-oriented person. So it's funny how we're similar but very different. But because she's detail-oriented, she came up with more detailed ideas, such as basket raffle to make money, which I thought was a tremendous idea. And then what would we put in the basket raffle? What can we do? So I think, with the implementer of getting the plan going, then she comes up with great ideas and more specific ideas of how we can accomplish it, what we can do. That's what she brings so much to it, to help it be successful. And then we got Tyler. Tyler is an ESFJ, which is an extrovert, sensing, feeling, and judging. Because of that, he is also someone who strives to create a harmonious atmosphere. I write it down, I still can't read it. And help those around us. The biggest difference, I would say, his personality is from me and Stassi's, is that he's more objective. He doesn't get so much feelings involved. He's kind of a little bit more black and white in a way, where he was very calming to the group. Kind of, let's move on. What are we going to do? How can we fix this? What should we do? He's very, just straightforward. And I think that helped a lot. As, we can be emotional. He's kind of like, okay, well, what can we just do? Let's just get this figured out. And he doesn't let his emotions impact how things are going. So, like I said, he was very calming to the group. He asked very good questions on, how we can run this, what we can do. And then obviously he used resources from his work to make it a huge success for the night. So he was very clear on what he could bring. He was very clear on what he could provide as far as time, what he could provide for the fundraiser, and he is someone that you can rely on. He did everything he said he was going to do, from the start to the finish. This is what I can do. This is what I'm going to perform. Again, very black and white. This is where I'm at. And I think that's very beneficial to a group because there's no questions. Okay, we know Tyler's going to do what he says he's going to do. We know what he's going to bring. So, and again, he was always very calm. No matter what was going on, no matter how stressful it is, okay, we'll get through this, So I thought Tyler's personality was very beneficial in our group. And then Christina, you're an extrovert? Did I know that? Extrovert, intuition, feeling, and judging. So she is actually the same as Tyler.
No, she's an ENFJ.
Yep. Sorry.
E
N, intuition, not sensing. She is very trustworthy and responsible. She is also very supportive to those around her. She steps into the facilitator role very effectively, which also helped on the first night because she was ready to grab the board, let's put our ideas up. kind of organize all the ideas into categories, and then we can figure it out. So she's very good at type A, organizing, breaking it down, so that you can visualize it and then make a decision. So she was very good at just, let's get this on the board. Instead of just throwing it around, we're going to write it down, we're going to categorize it, and we're going to decide, which was obviously very helpful. And that's how we came to our conclusion so quickly. Christina is very hardworking. She takes a lot of pride in what she does, and she wants everything to be done correctly and completely with nothing missing. Christina is very detail-oriented and very driven. She will see a project through no matter what, even if she has to put other things on hold, even in her life, to make sure that it's complete. So she is somebody that is completely dependable and brought a lot to our group, and we're very lucky to have her. So that's what I would say. Those are all the positives that brought our group together and made us successful in the end. So I'm thankful for everybody in our group.
So now we get into the actual day of executing of the plan. Clearly, as everybody has talked about, there was a lot of back and forth that went into this, so the final outcome was not exactly what we pictured on day one, but I think that we would probably all agree that it was even better than we had originally thought, and the setting was perfect, and it was nice to have somebody with a restaurant connection to be able to provide us with a place to have this holiday mixer at. So day of, Christina was doing a ton of the behind the scenes work. She was there early in the day, just making sure that we had our own space and we had tables and chairs and everything was organized and laid out so that we would kind of be still, at the restaurant with other people, but isolated in our little area that we had set up for us. And then the rest of us came along later in the day, and there was some decorating to be done that was taken care of by Stassi and Sherry, and then I came along and brought the Sabres items to couple with the other stuff that was in the raffle. So there I am in front of the raffle. So I provided 5 items from work. So we had a jersey, a stick, photo, a puck, and a pennant, all autographed. Stassi had brought the teas and cookies by Millie, and there was so we had that all laid out there, and it was on a nice display. So I thought that the raffle portion of the event was really a big piece of it, and we were able to bring it together, and that was one of the goals that we had set as we were moving along. So then we had a good handful of guests come. I think at first we thought we'd be lucky to just get ourselves in this room and maybe a couple others, but we had a pretty solid turnout amongst professors and alumni and some of our fellow cohort members and my MBA classmates. Taylor and Michelle coming was great to get back together with them. So I just thought that the environment and the crowd overall was really positive, and it was nice to be able to just enjoy ourselves for a few hours there. And then the basket raffle winners, and the grand winners, both of you really cleaned up, got the big items, and I'll say truthfully, it was not rigged anyway. I wasn't, when I was picking and neither of you even saw, but I was picking the tickets out of the baskets, but I wasn't looking. I had no idea whose tickets were whose, and somehow you both made out pretty well. So, and overall, we wound up raising $220. That's going to be put towards the Leadership Innovation Student Association. So I think given all of the circumstances going into the event, the outcome really was positive, and there wasn't, although there were issues in the weeks leading up, day of, we all did our parts and played the roles that we had to play to make it a really solid event. And at the end of the day, we raised some money for the association, so that was great. And there's us in front of the tree. Another pic that includes
nice.
Taylor and Michelle as well.
Yeah, that's almost our full.
Yeah, just
original
missing,
cohort.
just missing Tina.
nice.
We're just missing Tina, yeah.
That's who we started with. So it was cool.
Yeah.
And there's Dr. Phil. He gets his own slide.
Yeah.
He's wearing our new Student Association merchandise.
Yeah.
He's featuring it.
And this little slide here is kind of what I've been alluding to throughout. So the now what and kind of what our takeaway from this, and I've mentioned this a few times, but we basically learned, and we've learned this a little bit throughout our classes here, as we've gone through it, that it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, and even though really we weren't necessarily making the mistakes, there was just some shortcomings and some negative that was falling on us throughout the process that we didn't necessarily expect to run into when we got into it. Like Sherry was saying on day one when we got together, like we had a plan in place, this is exactly how it's gonna go, and life happens and it's not necessarily ever gonna turn out that way, so we made the best of what we had and the resources that we were able to combine together, using Christina's Family Restaurant and all of our skills and our knowledge to be able to plan this event and still pull it off and make a really solid, positive outcome. Even though it wasn't what we were expecting in the first place, we still made a positive outcome in the end.
We definitely had a vision and a painting in our head of what we wanted when we started off, and honestly, it was a journey. And we thought it'd be a very simple event to plan, but it wasn't. We figured that out very soon. There were a lot of external forces, as Tyler mentioned, that put a lot of pressure on us. 27 days to get it approved, and we encountered a lot of resistors along the way who wanted to shut us down, and we overcame that. And what we did is we sought out assisters, and they were very beneficial to us along the journey, and they helped us reach our goal. And that in combination, with the different dynamics of our cohort and our grit, we persevered, and it was a very positive outcome and long journey. But we were hoped that this to be like a first annual event, and it's sparking change within this program and bringing together students and faculty, and that's what's needed. And again, referring back to Cuisinart Symposium, encouraging the heart. That's what we need to do as leaders, bring everyone together, and yes, very, very happy with our outcome.
And happy holidays from cohort 38.
Very good. Questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is there any questions for us? Yeah.
And or feedback of what your perspective of the event was from somebody who was attending.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great time.
Yeah, we had a great time.
I think
We
we
don't get
almost
to-
closed the place.
I know, I looked for you. I was like,
You could have stayed till 1 a.m. too.
well, we don't ever have that opportunity to sit like that and visit, like relax, and it was just, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was nice.
Yeah.
Everybody that was there was open and warm and had the opportunity to
Yeah.
meet some of the other students.
Yeah.
To see people that we haven't, had a chance to kind of just mingle with for a while. Food was delicious. It was great, and then went in a couple of items, just put the icing on the cake there, so. No, it was very nice, it really was.
Good,
Very
yeah.
nice.
We noticed in coming into this program that we're all different cohorts, but we're all kind of segregated in a sense. And I noticed when I came in months ago, just brought cupcakes into the other cohort, and they all came into me and they all started talking to me about things, and I realized we need to bring us all together. Imagine what can happen if we all network and we're all brought into the same room. Remarkable things can happen. So we're going to accomplish that, and we're going to continue this on through this program.
So that is one of my questions. How might you use the success, because we do believe it was very successful, of this event to continue the Student Association journey? What do you see yourselves doing?
For the Student Association, we're going to make this an annual event. I think that's very important to have a holiday mixer at the end, whether we're celebrating, the cohort who is just graduating, we're bringing everyone together, celebrating the holidays,
Yeah.
we have to encourage the heart, that's very important. So it is going to be an annual event to the Student Association, hosted by the Student Association from here on out. So that's how we're going to take that. We learned a lot from the journey, so next year it's going to be a lot easier.
And so, that is, what's the learning?
Learning is honestly, it's overcoming the obstacles, banding together as a team, seeking out those assisters to help us along the way. Just, again, taking that step back and looking at everything and reflecting and taking it all in, and then we can use it all next year to make it even better.
And certainly, even the learning of at Damon is a big system.
Yes.
The ship moves slow, it doesn't turn quickly, so.
27 days,
I think we have a larger understanding of some of the
Absolutely.
internal organizational barriers that can be there that will adjust timeframes
Mm.
that we might have to start anticipating and really be cognizant of planning and how we want to execute, frame, and use language
Yeah.
when we're talking to people to
Right.
make sure we're not, that everybody's on the same page of understanding, I guess.
What would happen with Damon is when you put an event request in, it's either a student association event or it's an outside event.
Oh,
We were outside event because we were a class project, we couldn't
Oh.
classify as a student activities event. So that's where the separation entailed, and it went to different people who
Sure.
handled different parts. So then that's what happened. Being class project, it didn't work out, so we reframed it, and then it went to the other person, and then it was approved that way, so, absolutely.
so how soon in advance, like for a holiday event, like Rosary's a wonderful facility, right? So how far in advance do they take requests, or how far in advance do you have to request it? Like if you want a holiday party, say the first Friday in December of 2022.
Very far in advance. We put the initial
Okay.
request in Rosary, that was our first option, was Rosary Hall, and
Yeah.
that was booked. Lowemly Lounge was booked, there was another location, it was booked. So
Yeah.
we went to Musical Fair, and we heard nothing back.
Sure.
And they kept reaching out to them, I think there was like a little, little relationship issue between
Yeah,
Fair
and
and
they're
Damon.
separate, they are separate, they're on
Absolutely.
campus, but they're not the campus,
So they
right?
never responded, and so
Wow.
after that point, it was to the point where we have to figure
Yeah.
something else out, so then that's when the dining services opened up the den to us, but then, it was granted, but then it had to be
Yeah.
retracted,
The
so,
stipulations,
yes,
yeah.
many stipulations after it was
Yeah.
approved. Re-granted.
So I think, and hopefully, now that like there's an awareness that this is happening and that there's people who are really infusing energy into this will
Yeah.
lead to more opportunities for events and more attendance as well, because
Sure.
it creates a larger visual of the Leadership and Innovation Student Association that wasn't there before. So I think the end goal is to really continue to expand on this so we can grow the organization and really start to infuse more of those community events and support events and just really kind of bring our community together as a larger whole. I think
That's
One-
huge, because they started the association in 2016, and so they submitted the request, and it just sat there, and it wasn't just till like August that we
Yeah.
actually started. Got the logo approved, we got the merchandise, we got the members, so we're just in that process of recruiting and building it up from the ground up. So I thought this was a perfect holiday event to bring everyone together, but yeah, definitely gonna be continued in the future.
Yeah, great. Any better questions?
Going back to the learning, based on this journey, that you all have went on together, how might you apply this in your workplace? What you learned?
I think something like a general takeaway that could be applied to other things would just be to, when you're going into a project or you want to make something happen, you have to realize that there's going to be external factors that may, make that much more difficult to happen. So maybe buying yourself some more time, evaluating other alternatives going in that you can't, and I don't think that we had a totally set mindset that like this is what's happening no matter what, because we knew that there was a chance we'd have to pivot. So just continuing to keep that open mind and realize that more likely than not, you're going to have to pivot throughout your journey when you're working on a larger project. And this really, in the grand scheme of things, is not that large of a project, but just look at how many different factors there were. So it's, you can imagine on a much larger scale, all the other things that could get brought into that. So that's my takeaway in terms of how this could be applied to workplace situations and larger situations.
I think the importance of your team dynamic, of having the right players on the team, and then relationship resource connection versus networking. So one of the great successes of this is that one of our team members has a resource that basically, without it, I don't know, we would have figured out the execution, but really made the outcome be
Yeah.
much better with that. And just being able to connect with those relationships, ask about that, leverage those things is important. And I think it ties back to the Student Association with our focus of wanting to network with other people. There's a great amount of understanding and importance that relationships can have that help us
Sure.
just navigate through the world, professionally, personally, as you're trying to execute events with that. So I guess it would fall under almost the political frame, like who has the resource power.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Tyler, you know, having access to savers, those are lucrative items. And even, you know, just the ability to be able to bring those things to the table where, you know, if you didn't have those key players on your team or have relationships with those connections, it might have had a different outcome for those resources.
There's just a lot of moving parts that you have to consider with any project that you have. And all those, like Tyler said, all the external forces that could be up against you, and those resistors and the assisters, and tapping into that. And then also that whole creative problem solving. And when we had to reframe it, that took some creative problem solving and some creativity, and we had to pivot. But we came up with a solution, and then we just went forward. So.
Right.
Anything else?
I clearly heard the HR frame, right, Stasi mentioned that in terms of the whole group dynamic and the importance of like, having those relationships.
And clearly in fact, we debriefed it at the time it was happening to you, clearly on the campus side, the political frame. You really realize what a big system it is, a huge hierarchy, you know, even that could be structural, and there certainly are key people of power, have different positional power on the campus, so that would fall under the political frame, so.
There was definitely a hierarchy, you know, it was me, and then there was like, you know, our moderator of the association, but then he tapped into, you know, the two people who are in charge of the events, whether that's the student activities events or the other off-campus events, and then above that is the authority figure, who, you know, it wasn't their fault that things weren't moving or they were, you know, taken back, it was the authority figure who had the ultimate power of control over them.
And I think we talked about the symbolic frame as what we want to move forward
Oh,
as an ethos of this organization and why the importance for us to start with this event. And really the goals to grow this as far as who we are as an organization, what we would like to do this, and the connections we want to make for this larger organization.
And certainly other events that have been done in the past, you know, through the division or the department, have been to like bring in speakers, you know, continue, you know, ongoing education for alumni, you know, those sorts of things, as well as the social. I think people really enjoy, you know, for the holiday, the feel of a social event and just informal networking, if you will, rather than.
And we just wanted to make it very fun, comfortable, relaxed atmosphere. I mean, when they said that we couldn't have outside guests, and like, it kind of just takes away from the director can't bring her husband, or people can't bring people with them to enjoy it, to bring the holiday spirit. So that kind of deterred away from it. So
Sure.
yeah.
Good. Anything? We're good?
Good.
We're good. There's the two of us to clap. Who